The Means to an End by its_Kingston on AO3. Episode 3, Chapter 3. When Prince Midoriya was still absent come the following morning, Uraraka had no choice but to accept her fate. Her fate, decided by the actions of a prince and his father. Her fate, decided by her own father, before she was old enough to comprehend just how much she was giving up for this dreadful tower. Her fate, that the rogue gave her a chance to escape. Uraraka had declined it, and now she was trapped. She was at the mercy of the rogue, and it was infuriating. Each crack of the wind sent vines shaking and leaves fluttering. With each sound came hope of Toga's appearance. The deep blue of her mask, carved up by the white teeth that were bared across it, was all Uraraka wanted to hear. Perhaps then she could leave. The corners of her lips pulled up at the idea. Leaving. Of running free. Away from the kingdoms and out into the further world. She'd see the grand oceans that probably danced beneath the moon. She'd climb the mountains that were so tall they might as well cut the sky open. Uraraka leaned back on her bed. She'd be free once more. The nagging little voice, the one that seemed to speak to her in her father's voice, made itself known. You'd upset your father, it said, and you'll disappoint your kingdom. Uraraka scowled. She was trapped between a kingdom that didn't want her, but needed her, and a world of exploration that didn't need her, but she wanted. And oh, did she want it! The feel of the grass, the sound of the forest far from her own, the way the sun would coat her, and the way the moon would illuminate her. Uraraka desired it with so much. It was selfish. It was driven deep into her, fused and absorbed in the very being. It would be multiplied to rid herself of such a dream. Maybe when Toga arrived, Uraraka could leave alongside her. Leaving with her, that was all Uraraka asked. That is why the conversation that transpired between them was so... Uraraka lacked the words to describe the rogue. Why can't you assist me down on your way? You plan to leave, yes? She asked. Her attempts at keeping her tone even weren't fruitful, though she doubted such a thing would last very long. Yes, though not with you. You drive me from your home in a storm with judgment and cruel words and expect me to help? Toga asked. She was gathering her dried clothes from the wire where they hung up. Uraraka hadn't directed her to them. Toga simply began doing it herself. Uraraka wondered how it felt to be so free of worry. I'm aware, but... Uraraka paused. She looked towards the floor. I apologize, Toga. I understand I wronged you. I am not asking for your forgiveness, but assistance. She raised her head. Toga was busying herself, changing back into her own dry clothes. The buttons of her shirt were undone, and Uraraka snapped her head back towards the floor for the sake of privacy. There was a strange pulse, one where Uraraka observed how the floor had been coated in dirt in the absence of her cleaning. You've talked to perhaps 4 people in your life, myself included, so I feel as though I should let you pass with a slap on the wrist. However, you insulted me, my honor, and my family. The Brotherhood comes before all, and I cannot stand to let you call them cold-blooded when they were so willing to take me in after the harm I suffered at the hands of my parents. As ignorant as you, they hardly fit such a title. Toga said. She was silent for a moment. Princess, tell me it is not malice but ignorance that drives you to side with the kingdom time and time again. I'm unsure of what you mean. Uraraka was cautious, not idiotic. Despite her mistrust, she wanted to know more about Toga. It was a problem, one that medicine could not cure. Uraraka wanted to hear every story the rogue had, if only to learn the state of the world, perhaps the state of her soul along the way. It was morbid curiosity, one that drove her to maintain silence and let Toga continue. Do you stand with them because you believe they are right, or is it their way that the only way you know? I'd like to know more about the world beyond our borders, Uraraka said quietly, anger forgotten. Its place was filled by childless giddiness. Toga watched her, quiet, and the lower land would oppose his land. Such as? I have stories to share. Toga lowered her mask for the first time since she returned. Anything, Uraraka said. She turned and pulled a chair from where the table for Toga to sit, before heading back to her pantry. Her hand landed on a jar of spiced apple chunks, and Uraraka scowled. No, not her. They were her friends. She retrieved a tart instead, laying it on the plate of parlored oil. It was polished nicely, as Uraraka liked it to be. Shining plates was a pristine of hers. Anything? Toga asked. She hesitantly looked at the seat, but hardly spared the tart a glance. Uraraka took a seat at the edge of her bed. She never had a use for more than one chair, and she wouldn't need one if Toga helped her out from here. Nothing about the crimes you've committed. I have no thirst for such knowledge. You take the fun out of storytelling. I suppose tales of places I've been will suffice. Toga smiled softly when she took note of the excited expression Uraraka wore. Yes, they will. Once, many years ago, I was sent across the mountain range between the kingdoms of Yue and Mal to intercept a wagon passing through the valley. I had to climb the entire face of the mountain alone. I started when the sun was rising and made it to the top when the moon was reaching its peak. The stars were brilliant from there, as was the moon, like petals across a pond. Uraraka nodded, smiling. I've seen the stars from my window. They are truly beautiful. I wish to climb the highest mountain and pluck one from the sky at night. Toga laughed, light and genuine. I tried to, but they're too far to reach. Perhaps a taller mountain will do. Have you seen one of the oceans that wrap our continent? Uraraka asked. She leaned forward on her bed. I've been there, yes. It stretches so far that no land is visible for days of sailing. The water is cold, despite baking beneath the sun all day. Curiously. I do not recommend the taste of the water, though, as it tastes stronger than the salts used to keep our meats fresh. Uraraka kept the smile off her face. I'm not surprised you tried to drink it. What is that supposed to mean, princess? Toga's glare was undetermined, but playful, quick up her lips. Just as you understood it, rogue. Which of the oceans was it? The one just past the docks of Akshay, where the ships leave for the southern islands? Oh, Uraraka said. Yes, the kingdom of Akshay. I recall the oceans there. I heard the princess is quite the swimmer for my brother. Toga hummed. I believe so. I'm not allowed within the walls of the kingdom. As if that stops you, Uraraka said. Try as she may appear unbothered by the mention of Ichiri, Uraraka couldn't help but feel moved on when leaving a position of her consciousness and mind with a name. Yes, I suppose you are correct, Toga replied. Her smile faded noticeably as she settled her gaze on Uraraka. Trouble? Nothing of the sort, just frustration with the state of my kingdom. I wish not to be here, but out there, beyond the walls, I wish to see the world as you have. Thoughts of the prince linger? Toga asked. Uraraka nodded bitterly. You're aware you wouldn't have your freedom if he had rescued you, no? It would have been better than this. A mount of fabric filed Uraraka's fist as she gripped the bedsheets. You mentioned being in prison once before. Did you? I did, but I met my mentor in the Legion. I had nowhere to go, so I remained in the kingdom. I was not wanted at the time. Uraraka furrowed her brows. Why were you in prison then? Let me speak, and you will know, princess, Toga said. Her voice carried a twinge of amusement. I refused to serve 3 years' penance, as I was not remorseful. The woman I was with repented, though. I was condemned to Gladio for a month before meeting a fellow Legion member. She stared out the window, out at the setting sun, as if reflecting. 3 years of penance, Uraraka repeated. When was this thrust upon you? 2 years ago. I would have spent my past 21st birthday instead. I am free to celebrate it with my family come August, Toga said. 21 in the August? You're hardly older than me. I become 20 in December, Uraraka said. Ah, wait, I've hampered your story. Why were you made to repent if you have not met your mentor or formal league yet? You said you had no crime. Not crime by the standards of many, but it was enough for the church. I spoke of it before, Princess. I caught with a woman. Rather, she felt guilt and went to the church. I was sentenced. Yet I did no wrong, and will not serve penance, nary a reason. That's punishable? Uraraka asked. She hadn't been within the walls of Mal for 13 years. How much had changed in that time? How much had already been enforced when she left, blissfully ignorant of the pain it caused? Was such a thing a form of love that deserving of punishment? I suppose so, Togo replied. For how long has such a thing been in place? Togo raised an eyebrow. For as long as the church has wished, and as long as they come to wish, most don't receive a punishment, as it is done behind closed doors. Hardly a soul seemed to care, though, when she raised hell over it, the church must have thought I was to blame. And your parents didn't... Uraraka drew in a quick breath. I apologize, it was a slip of my tongue. No, Toga said. She raised a hand in dismissal. My parents made no assist to me. They banished me from their house at a young age. A parent is not supposed to abandon their child, especially not before they can raise themselves. They deserve no such title. Toga smiled. Yet the king remains your father. Are you to imply that he abandoned me? In a tower of his own making, no less. Uraraka stopped. She'd been avoiding this topic for as long as she could remember. Her father sent her here for the kingdom. Not to rid her. That was the reason she, along with the public, was given. Uraraka often wondered if that was the true reason. You believe so? Uraraka asked. Her throat was bone dry, causing her to swallow forcefully. I believe so, yes. No caring father would send his only daughter away from the kingdom. Especially not if there were much better solutions. What would you have done then? Uraraka asked. Toss aside my pride and ask another kingdom for assistance. Togo replied smoothly. He did not, and now you suffer his consequences. Princess Uraraka, she said. You're not the same as him. If I may be so bold, Ochako, Toga asked. Her eyes met Uraraka's. They were swimming with emotion, deeper than any of the great seas, and much more pleasant than the drawing of them Uraraka had seen, and unfiltered and wild as Toga herself. As you wish, Uraraka said. Ochako. Toga emphasized her name in a way that caused Uraraka to look down at the floor rather than hold her gaze. Do you wish to be rid of this place? More than anything, Uraraka replied. Without a prince? Uraraka took a breath. I wish to leave, she said. Even knowing it would mean abandoning your kingdom, Toga asked. My kingdom is my family, whether they want me or not. They'll need me one day. I have no brothers, no sisters, so I must lead. You'd lead them, compromising your life in the process? A life you never lived to begin with. Toga seemed confused. You would hang your freedom to the guards that never leave your side, to the people who demand your perfection, and to the other lookers who look down upon a queen without a king? If that is what they need, Uraraka said. Toga graced her with a bittersweet smile. That is where we differ. I cannot sacrifice my freedom for another. I would do nothing more than to leave and never return. But if I abandon them, I fear I will lose part of myself. To travel is my dream, but to settle with a prince and rule the kingdom is my duty. You are selfless. I am selfish, Toga said. It is respectable, though. I cannot help but wonder why you do it. Uraraka nodded grimly. Because it is necessary. I wish I could be as carefree as you. But the morality of my father is one to be concerned. I will need to be there one day, whether I wish to be or not. One day, though, perhaps. Not any time soon. Toga said. She stretched her hands out across the gap between them. An offer. One Uraraka couldn't bring herself to refuse, despite knowing she could not take it either. Toga, Himiko, she said, just as Uraraka had to her. I know I am unable to take that offer. Where would I go? How would I know to return home? Uraraka asked. Toga smiled. Come along with me. The legions will accept you while you travel. With us, you will not have to worry. You will be home if that is what you desire by the date of the king's death. I cannot. You're the exception, Himiko. I will not associate with wanted criminals. Why am I the exception, Ochako? I have done nothing to make you better than my brothers and sisters in your eyes, Toga said. It is unfair to judge such a thing. You're the exception because you are different. I wouldn't expect a rogue to be so joyful or forgiving as you. What is your standard? I believe you'll find them just as charming as I am. Impossible, Uraraka thought. She stopped the word before it fell past her lips. Perhaps, she said. With a sigh, she met Toga's gaze again. Give me the night to consider it. Understood. Toga replied. Beside her, her eye crinkled, and her smile reached her ears. Uraraka supposed she was interpreting her answer as a definite yes. Do you have a place to sleep tonight? Uraraka asked. She looked towards the window. The sun was almost completely set. It was dim outside, shadows growing harder as the sky grew darker. Everything was bathed in a dark orange light. Yes, Toga said. My shelter has been secured. I stumbled upon an old inn passing over the outer wall of UA, about an hour walk from your tower. The night grows colder as we approach the fall, Himiko, not to mention the critters that emerge come sundown. Toga banished her dagger, letting the candle lit limp off the blade. I'm protected. And the cold? To me? Toga began, a slight twinge mixed in her voice. It sounds as though you're looking for a reason for me to stay. And suppose I didn't want to be left alone again. Would you blame me? Uraraka asked. She stood from her bedside and walked to the window. Her hand moved to rest on the latch as she turned back to Toga. The other woman nodded as she sheltered her blade and gave Uraraka a reassuring smile. Not particularly. I'll stay the night, though. Where am I to sleep? The bed, as one typically does. Uraraka said. She gave Toga a curious look. Toga grinned knowingly. Yes, as one typically does. Tell me, Princess, how many of us are there? Unless you're insinuating. Banish the thought, Uraraka replied. She flashed Toga a smile, as if telling her it was a quip rather than an insult. Toga giggled in return, perhaps at the reddening state of Uraraka's face. I have your offer to keep me up in thought tonight, as well as pack if the need arises. You will sleep alone. Oh, I'm honored you're putting such thought to it. It is a life-altering choice. I am not going to act rashly and doom my kingdom. If you wish to still return back, come your father's death day, we will make sure that you are here, Toga said. You have my word, Ochako. If I wish, Uraraka asked. You oversell yourself. If I venture out with you, I will be returning once I am needed. And if you are needed more than the kingdom does? Uraraka paused. Then you'll be free to accompany me back. She found the idea hard to grasp. One person needing another more than their own kingdom needing them, but couldn't find it within herself to rebuke the notice. Perhaps she was more selfish than Toga thought. Follow you back where I am unwelcome? Toga tilted her head to the side. A smidget. Uraraka walked aimlessly past, in an attempt to stop herself from pushing the stray hair into place behind the rogue's ear. I cannot promise I will pardon you, but if no one were to know, you wouldn't be in prison, Uraraka said. She was facing the pantry, eyes wandering across different jars, and tired sacks. That is not the life I wish to lead. I could not trade the world for a castle, no matter who resides in there. Understandable, Uraraka replied. If it were true, if she weren't born into the line of royalty, She would have long since traveled the fields and oceans this great planet housed. The weather we leave tomorrow is a question of its own. There is no use in speculating about the future when the course I take is yet to be decided. You'll what? Stay here, await a prince that will never come along? If that is what it takes to watch the kingdom of Mal prosper, then that is what I will do. Uraraka said. It was a plainful decoration, one that served to weaken her resolve, if anything. Staying here, alone again, sans the monthly visits from Bakugou. Uraraka wished a solitude upon no one. It is so hard to find a stopping point. So I just chose that one. Hopefully it's a good stopping point. It is so hard to choose a stopping point. All I have to say is, ooh, I'm liking this chapter. Do they smooch? Kingston? When can they smooch? Also, the fact that Toga, the first reason on why she was being imprisoned or, what's it called? Reprimanded in the beginning is not because of a crime she committed, where it's an actual crime, but because she fell in love with a woman. Ah, I love that. I love that. Ugh, I love it. Mwah, 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 mwah. Okay. Moving on. I don't have much to say for once. I'm actually shocked. Okay. I do have a lot to say. It's just, I kind of just want to get to reading the next chapter, or not next chapter, but next episode. So, bye, suckers. As always, my raindrops. Make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take my meds. What? Take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.